What happens when your elf on the shelf gets caught in action? Today, we've got some hilarious and mysterious elf sightings to share with you. Like this video, subscribe, and let's get started. If there's one thing elves are good at, it's turning a situation around in their favor. When an elf on the shelf was caught moving on camera, it decided to turn the situation around and tease the camera instead. A hidden camera captured an impressive display of magic by an elf, and it's nothing short of awesome. Too bad the elf went into hiding afterwards and we couldn't see more of it. In this clip, YouTube Meeble Sporella managed to catch their elves on the shelf sneaking various candies and sweets. While this is one of the shortest clips on the list, the surprise it packs will give you thrills. Not only did we get to see an elf that decorates, but we also got an elf on the shelf that would go into hiding immediately rather than admire its own work. In this clip, we can see an elf on the shelf moving right in front of a hidden camera, but not long after, the elves notice the camera and takes a closer look at it. Perhaps you can't find many cameras in the North Pole, and that's why this elf is super curious about such a device. Maybe it doesn't even know that it's being recorded, and that's why the elf doesn't hurry to escape being recorded. This girl woke up in the morning to find a note left by her elf, saying that they were going out to hide in the nearby forest, and luckily the note included the GPS coordinates for the owner to find her elves. She started walking to the coordinates and ended up finding not just her elves, but also a plethora of other dolls and toys. Her elves have probably hosted some sort of forest party for all the toys in her closet, and it's just amazing.
Let me get you down from there. Oh no, sorry.
You.
I'm sorry, baby.
He probably has a concussion from that.
We'll take him to the doctor.
We can't take him.
But how are you gonna touch? You can't touch the elf. How are you gonna get him down? Or take the branch.
In this incredible clip, we have an elf hanging from the bed curtain frame, and suddenly it starts moving and slowly making its way to the other side of the frame using only its hand. Now, this elf is probably a gymnast back in the North Pole, and perhaps even elves have athletic competitions, so this elf decided to put in some time into training while it's away from its friends. This elf played so many pranks on this family, and you're about to be in for an adventure. In the first few seconds of the video, the elf starts things off by sliding down the stairs and onto the fire truck toy. Then it drives to the family's room, and then the lights begin to rapidly turn off and on. But that's not the craziest part. The elf goes on to climb up the tree in the fireplace and hooks the family socks. This elf is just so mischievous, but because of that, we have this great clip to show you, so make sure to stick around to the end. In this clip, YouTuber Meeble Sporella managed to catch their elves on the shelf sneaking various candies and sweets. We can't blame them. After all, sweets are the main source of energy for elves. The elf on the shelf in this next clip will rather choose to play hide and seek in the kitchen than stay put in one position, so let's check it out. In this short clip, we can hear the chef elf on the shelf talking, and we can also see his friend walking behind his back.
To go, so I'll see you next year, and I can't wait to see how.
An elf on the shelf was caught on camera, actually teasing the viewers. The elf in this clip is seen playing hide and seek with the camera. How cute. Two elves on the shelf displayed impressive magic when they both decided to use magic to create a Christmas tree in their owner's house, and then the elves joined hands together like lovers facing the Christmas tree. That's probably the most romantic elf on the shelf clip ever, so enjoy it to the fullest. Some elves on the shelf are super funny like this one. It was just chilling on a Christmas tree and looked straight into the camera and raised its hand in a dabbing position. It's just insane. It makes you think whether it's something Santa's teaching the elves or it's just this elf that's seen the kids do it many times and wanted to try it itself. These elves must be used to being captured on camera, and they should be aware by now that people know that they can come to life. And back in the day, every elf was captured moving on camera would get fired, but maybe this year Santa has changed the North Pole laws or something like that, because this elf was sitting with his face turned away from the camera when out of nowhere it just turned around and looked straight into it. It's just insane, so let's check it out. For this short elf on the shelf caught moving clip, we have an elf who saw a camera rolling and decided to look straight into its lens. The elf shoves its face into the camera and quickly makes its exit. What a wonderful sight. For this elf, it's the 10th day it's spending at this family's house, and it was the day when it eventually got spotted moving on video by the dad. Take note of how he successfully captures the elf. First, he places the elf snacks to entice him to enter the room. Nothing appears to be moving at first, but then the elf flies into the room with a marker and greets us with a Merry Christmas. What a lovely elf. And after that, the elf walks away without even touching the elf snacks. It's most likely not as good as the snacks that it gets from Santa at the North Pole. Up next, we have an elf on the shelf who appears in front of the camera and then quickly turns its back and walks away from it. A second later, the elf approaches the camera again, but this time the elf is rubbing its hands. The little fellow was likely planning something mischievous because it left its side again, only to reappear with its friend. These two elves keep showing up in front of the camera until their owner enters the room, and then one of the elves just barely stops moving in time to avoid getting caught. Now we have an elf owner who set up a hidden camera in front of the cookie tray to attract his elf to the shelf. But as soon as he leaves the room, you can see his elf popping out from under the table, and as soon as the elf is about to steal one of the cookies, the owner returns into the room and the elf stops moving. This elf was captured taking care of a sweet tooth with his fellow elves and making them cookies. This is a very nice gesture, and it shows how caring and considerate these magical beings are. Would you like to taste a cookie made by an elf? Elf on the shelf really loves standing and clinging onto Christmas trees, so it's not a surprise that this elf on the shelf decided to go for the family's Christmas tree even if he gets caught by the family's surveillance cameras. Let's see how this amazing elf gets his way to the top of the Christmas tree. Trust me, it's truly amazing. Now we have a clip of a group of elves sitting in darkness, and we can see the usual red elf, but next to it sits a more rare blue elf and green elves. However, the moving elf is the pink one, who comes from behind the camera and shoves the blue elf before showing its own face to the camera. While all the elves are not moving, the pink one seems to be having tons of fun alone. This clip shows another example of elves that like to use flying technology instead of magic. These kids were on a mission to catch their elf on the shelf as a part of their Christmas celebration. They were hoping to meet the elf on the Christmas tree and see it with their own eyes, but it had other plans. Stay around, as 2 hours later, the elf made a grand descent flying a candy-filled toy airplane, which is nothing surprising considering elves love sweets. Now we have a rare instance of an angry elf on the shelf who saw the hidden camera and attacked it. The elf punches and even headbutts the camera. The elf probably got angry at its owner for trying to catch it moving because the elves can't allow themselves to be recorded in motion. The elf keeps punching and hitting the camera before flipping it over at the very end of the clip. What a rare sighting of an elf on the shelf moving.
We know that an elf on the shelf can be crazy at times, but in this clip we have two elves playing with jelly as they pour it into a bowl. While one stirs the bowl, the other one continues to add water inside the bowl full of red jellies. These elves on the shelf seem to be pretty playful as they embark on their unhealthy cooking agenda. As one elf places an empty packet on the other elf's head, they seem to be having the time of their life in this kitchen. We can also see how one elf dips the other elf into the red jelly bowl like a French fry being dipped into ketchup. This is just super amazing to see. This clip shows two elves who were caught on camera either fighting or playing in some sort of weird way. Regardless of that, the camera was ready to capture the incredible moment between these two elves, so let's enjoy it together. Elves on the shelf usually wear red clothes, but there are actually clothes that have other colors like green or even black, which is the rarest. Apparently, they have the strongest magical powers, and in this clip, the black elf was caught trying to steal Skittles from the kitchen counter. The family put a bag of Skittles right in front of the camera, hoping the elf would fall for the bait. The elf had problems opening the door, but eventually reached the Skittles and got caught by the person behind the camera. However, the elf just teleported out of his hand and escaped the dangerous situation. This woman started hearing bell noises coming out of her fridge, meaning that some of her elves were caught inside of it. When she opened the fridge door, she found one of the elves wearing green clothes hanging upside down, and another elf with more usual red attire being stuck inside a water bottle. The elf wrote a note asking for help. Finally, the green elf speaks and explains how this entire situation came to be, so let's check it out.
The water bottle, but how'd she get in there? What? Zart, how in the world did Meebles get inside that water bottle?
Well, I was hanging upside down and I thought she might want to go in there because it'd be, toasty and cold, kind of like the North Pole, and
This clip isn't anything new, but a moving elf is still fascinating to watch. Did you notice the elf's movement near the door? According to the video's owner, he was astonished when he saw the clip recorded on a surveillance camera, and then he was super happy about his decision to place it there. Now we have a clip of this cheerful and adorable elf that was discovering playing in the house and being watched by the cat. After climbing the stairs, the elf balances itself high up on the stair railing before sliding down. The landing probably hurt, so he's gonna try it again with a pillow. Fortunately, the cat was super patient with his little elf friend and no harm was done to it. In this clip, the elf on the shelf seems to be sitting still until suddenly it starts moving. It quickly stands up and walks in circles until it slips and falls back down. Perhaps this elf isn't used to moving its legs a lot and that's why he fell down, but regardless of that, it's still a pretty fun clip. Up next is this little naughty elf caught moving and tumbling down this little platform he was standing on, next to the little royal guard. It's just a short video, but it's worth watching. Since it's an elf on the shelf getting caught moving, let's check it out. In this short clip, you can see the elf on the shelf spinning on the ceiling. The family who captured this clip swears that the elf got up there all by himself. If that's the case, now we have a short clip of an elf sitting on a mantelpiece. The elf suddenly starts moving and hides behind a sign. Let's take a look at this marvelous clip once more, and this time in slow motion so we can better see the elf moving.
This elf on the shelf was sitting still, but as soon as its owner walked past it, the elf started moving. The elf moved a bit and laid down on the side because its owner walked past the shelf again. But as soon as the owner wasn't present, the elf started moving again. This little elf wanted to move so much, but unfortunately for him, his owner was right next to him, so he couldn't risk being seen. Now we have a funny clip of this energetic elf dancing in the living room. After showing off his best stats move, the elf gets on the dog and starts to take a ride to the TV, where the elf gets on the mantelpiece, joins his elf friends on the TV, and starts dancing again. This elf keeps dancing until the TV turns off. What a crazy clip. In this clip, we have a joyful elf on the shelf who, upon moving, climbed down the Christmas tree and walked up to the cat. The elf looked like it wanted to pet its furry friend, but the cat got super scared of the elf and walked away. It's likely that it's the first moving elf the cat has seen, so that's why it's scared of it. The elf tries walking up to the cat a few more times, but he never succeeds in petting it. The elf on the shelf phenomenon is a Christmas tradition in which elves go around the neighborhood to spy on children and see if they're being good or bad. This elf has no idea that he was being watched by a drone camera as he went around the town. Luckily, he didn't break the speed limit, and this clip just shows how hard the elves are working. As this guy records an introduction for his YouTube video, you can see his elf sitting behind him on a closet start to move its arm and wave at the camera. What a spectacular sighting. Now they introduce to their son, the elf, and they make great friends.
Touch him. I'm not supposed to touch him.
After watching this clip, we've concluded that there couldn't be any other stranger elf on the shelf caught on camera clips on the internet. In this clip, an elf on the shelf was caught redecorating the kitchen of its owners, and it's not the kind of decoration you would ever expected to see anywhere. We think we just found the greatest elf prankster ever.
Have you ever seen spooky elves on the shelf? This one will undoubtedly frighten you because this clip was recorded right after Halloween, and I guess one of the elves decided to visit his family very early before Christmas and have some fun with Halloween props. For this short clip, we have footage of a security camera at a garage. It captured an elf who entered the garage, turned on the lights, and looked straight at the camera. The elf was probably planning to do something more, but it noticed the camera and escaped the scene.
Elf on the shelf really loves standing and clinging onto the Christmas trees, and it's not a surprise that this elf on the shelf decided to go for the family's Christmas tree even if he gets caught by the family's surveillance cameras. Let's see this amazing elf find his way up the Christmas tree.
A YouTuber named Nicholas Bradley uploaded a clip of his elf on the shelf doing what most elves do, avoiding the camera at all costs. Unfortunately for the elf, the camera captured most of his movements, well, until it spotted the camera itself. For this clip, we have an elf sitting between some toys and it slowly starts moving before getting up and leaving the frame. Seconds later, the elf shoves its head right into the camera from above and finally flips it over. This elf probably wasn't happy about its owner trying to record it moving. If you think elves are not intelligent, then this video will make you reconsider your stance on that, because this particular elf on the shelf displayed elf intelligence by using a grappling hook to climb the table and open the sweet jar from Santa. If you thought your cookies were safe in a cookie jar, then you might want to rethink your belief after watching this clip. So basically, a kid woke up to see their elf on the shelf sitting next to several cookies that has to be taken out of the cookie jar in the kitchen. The elf had even eaten some, as the crumbs indicate. Luckily, the elf left some for the kids to share.
So 2 weeks before Christmas, this dad caught their elf on the shelf just flying in the middle of the video, and he was recording. Actually, this dad and his family have a verified elf on the shelf YouTube channel that they captured their elf moving a few times, so it must be a real video, and what you're seeing has happened for real. It's about to get even crazier, so make sure to keep on watching until the end.
For this clip, we have an elf who was caught moving, but as soon as the owner entered the room to approach the elf, it jumped and stopped moving until landing. The elf knows it got caught. These two guys failed to catch their elf moving, so they had a genius idea of watching the elf moving next to their elf while recording it with a secret camera. Their plan worked out because their elf started moving and its eyes even changed color at the end of the clip. It's one of the most fascinating elf on the shelf caught moving clips ever, so let's enjoy it together.
We thought at the beginning the elves were like regular humans, but really, it really shows when an actual human's beside them, right?
Will Ferrell's tall. He's like 6'5".
Yeah,
so
but I mean, nah, but compared to these guys, look at them. They look like little shrimps. It's like me versus like you or something.
Nick or Mike.
Dude, look how massive it is.
It looks awesome. Look at the it has like a speed.
Dude,
Now we have a short clip of an elf on the shelf curiously approaching a camera, and it seems like the elf kisses the camera, but then he suddenly flips it over moments before it stops recording. This clip starts off like many elf on the shelf caught moving clips, by the elf approaching the camera, but unlike many other elves who take interest in cameras, this one was angry that it was recording and literally flipped it open. We can't really blame the elf because they can't allow themselves to be caught moving.
In this clip, we can see a chase between a cat and an elf on the shelf, and it gets really close until the elf decides to use its magic and fly upward to avoid the curious cat. Not all cats are friendly to elves, so it was probably a good decision to make.
For this clip, we have a super energetic elf who starts moving right in front of the camera. The elf looks straight at the camera and does a little dance of joy before starting to walk back and forth. At the end of the clip, it seems that the elf has left the camera, but its legs return to the frame before finally taking off. This clip captured an elf on the shelf who's showing us around the house as if he was a real estate agent. This elf is just restless and is moving all around the place seemingly without a purpose, and even goes to the balcony to sit on a chair, but for a moment until he started moving again. Let's check it out. In this clip, we have a rare type of elf on the shelf, and at very first it was laying dormant until suddenly it started moving, leaving the frame before returning and making its way towards the camera. The elf gives it a good look before noticing that it's recording, and because the elves are super instructed by Santa not to get caught moving, the elf quickly disappears from sight. This guy wanted to cut his elf on the shelf open to see what was inside of it, and you should never hurt your elves on a shelf like that because they're live creatures, and as you will see, the elf just disappeared from the table and just reappeared on the ceiling, meanwhile shutting off the lights. This is one of the creepiest elf on the shelf sightings ever.
What the heck? Yo, I don't know how he's able to do this, and I don't know why his eyes are glowing red, but I don't like this. Yo, what the? Cause he just disappeared. What the heck? His eyes are there now. Where did he go? Elf, where are you?
Peeking right at the camera, the elves even start headbutting the camera, and then they heard someone coming to open the doors and made their escape. In this clip, the elf on the shelf was caught moving towards the sleeping dog, and at first it seems like the elf was just having fun and dancing around the dog, but then the elf turns to its furry friend with a treat.
We think we're beginning to notice a pattern with some of these elves on the shelf. Some of them might enjoy getting caught in the living room, bedroom, and any other room, but they seem to hate getting caught in the kitchen. Is it because Santa makes them do all the cooking at the North Pole? It seems that way as we watch this clip of an elf jumping down the kitchen countertop and making a run for it.
Now, this kid practically was informing his father that he did not believe in the elf on the shelf's existence, and we can't blame him, because these days many people don't believe in magical elves. Anyways, this kid was telling his father that he doesn't believe it, and he has no idea what he was talking about. When he returned to his room, an elf on the shelf actually emerged and began flying around, and then the elf on the shelf began to perform various additional actions. Now, obviously, it's just flying around the house and flying around his room, but something crazier happens at the end of the clip, so stay tuned for that.
This clip shows two elves on the shelf potty training. Well, kinda, because it seems like the second elf has left her many gifts on the toilet seat and a note, which suggests that the elf isn't as much potty training as pranking her owner. At least elves poop candy, so this entire situation is not as bad as it could have been. Just imagine what could have been an alternate to that.
They're everywhere. Oh my. I have to say, your outfit's looking mighty beautiful. Along with your eyeballs. Oh, look. She has a note for us. Hoo, hoo, hoo. You can't go.